What a bullish day. So much bullish news, so much bullishness going on. The Fed is going to end QT now. Did you hear that? The Fed is considering to end QT. And who could have predicted this? Who could have predicted this? Not only so, but the US Treasury is also already starting to do QE. So you've got the Fed and the US Treasury, right? The two biggest branches. This is going to make crypto and stocks take off. Excuse me for being not bullish enough, right? But I think you're not being bullish enough. Okay, so everyone's down right now. Everyone's down right now because we're in a capitulation by time. Sometimes you have capitulation by price, where price drops 80-90%, or sometimes you have capitulation by time, where things just don't pump for another 6, 7, 8 months. Like what happened last year between March to around like November. For 8 months, things just went down, right? People think we're in that situation again. Boy, are they wrong. So I am bullish, right? Especially after my thesis has been proven right. Boy, have we got a huge episode for you today. Check it out, right? Because first of all, the big news, we're going to look at what is happening with Bitcoin and ETH, with the news of Fed doing the QE, ending QT, all that sort of stuff. And then we're going to look at probably something like the Solana ecosystem, because the meme coins have been dumping, to see how Solana will be playing out. So let's have a look why we're so bullish today. Because do you remember a couple of episodes ago, Pablo looked at this chart and says, no, I don't buy this. I think the Federal Reserve is about to end QT. When everybody's saying, no, the Federal Reserve is still doing QT. Even Jerome Powell himself, 3 days ago, when Jerome Powell testified in front of the Senate, he said, we're still thinking of doing QT. We still have his exact words. He says, QT still has a ways to go. Some distance to go, that means. Right? And what did he do this time? Look. Basically, how did we predict this? I said this is called the reverse repurchase agreements, and it's essentially where the banks park their extra liquidity that they got up to during COVID. They had something like $2.5 trillion, and now it's almost down to zero. And I also combined the fact that the US government is selling $9 trillion of bonds or refinancing of this year, so they have no other option. Most of it, pretty much during this first half of the year, they don't have an option. So they're going to have to dip into those savings, that $2.5 trillion pool, which is almost empty now, so there's no money to buy the treasury bonds that are coming out. But it gets even worse than that, because what the Federal Reserve said today turned out to be another major lie. Look at this. What they said today. This was their announcement. They're thinking of slowing down or pausing QT, which is very bullish, but that's another lie. What happened today was the Fed said, essentially, they are going to pause or slow QT due to debt ceiling. Due to the debt ceiling impasse, which is a total lie. It's a total lie. Debt ceiling, right? Remember this headline. Because there are two large US government institutions that are selling bonds. One is the Fed, and that's called QT, and one is the US Treasury, and that's called financing their debt when they sell treasury bonds. When there's a debt ceiling, as I explained to you guys 2 episodes ago, that means they cannot sell any more bonds. They cannot sell any more. So when the US Treasury cannot sell any more bonds, then there's less selling pressure on US Treasury bonds. Then that means the Fed can sell more or can continue to sell. Now, why does the Fed also need to stop? It doesn't make any sense. In fact, when Treasury stops selling, the Fed has less pressure to stop selling. But the Fed is saying, well, they've got a debt ceiling impasse. They need to stop until they work that out. That means until they can start selling bonds again, then we'll stop selling bonds again. Until then, we stop selling. Because Treasury stops selling, then the Fed stops selling. That's just crazy, isn't it? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So this is a completely bold-faced lie. And that goes to show what Pablo has said all along was correct. And that is the Fed, essentially, they say they have 2 mandates. One is basically to stabilize jobs, the US economy. 2, to control inflation, price stability. But the third mandate, those bankers don't tell you, is that the Fed, the third mandate, is actually controlled or created by the large bankers, and they secretly have a third mandate, which they don't tell you, and that is to help the US banking system or the market's liquidity. So they're going to run out of liquidity, as this chart shows you. Right? They're going to run out of liquidity, so the Fed will stop and QT. They will end QT exactly as Pablo predicted. Okay, let's have a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. So ETH, as we can see, this red trend line, I've shown you guys before in my video how this red trend line was drawn, 2.5 years long, and this blue trend line as well. They're all converging around this 20, it is logarithm, so 2754 area. So that's why ETH keeps on butting against this area, and you can see that we have long wicks above, and we keeps on getting rejected in that area. Keeps on getting rejected. Boom, 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 boom. I've redrawn my my bull flag to be a little bit more more flatter. So I think maybe we get one more dip, something like retest 2400, and then up we go. Very bullish news. Now for Bitcoin itself, let's have a look. Kind of a boring period, but hey, remember who told you? Remember who said Bitcoin is going to get stuck at 100K? It's going to take weeks, even months to confirm above 100K. Who told you that? Remember? Okay, here we go. So Bitcoin, once again, some people can see this as a double top. Technically, that could easily, entirely happen. My thinking is one more dip to sort of this red area, or maybe this dip 2 days ago was it, and then we bounce. And overall, I see this as a bull flag sideways consolidation pattern. So you have the flagpole, bull flag of sorts, consolidation, and boom, up we go. How high does it go? I am not quite sure, but that's kind of how I see it. And during this period, I think that's when the final alt season comes. And mind you, not every coin is going to make a crazy run. Probably just the strong narratives, just the strong narrative coins are going to make a big run. And also in other news, we have QE already started. If you've watched my episode from like 2 days ago, I showed folks that this is basically the US government's banking account. The US government's bank account is called the Treasury General Account at the Federal Reserve. And basically, this is when they collect money and they spend money. They collect money and they spend money. They collect money. And now, because the debt ceiling, they can't collect any more money, so they have to spend their money. Every time when they spend this money, and when they're about to spend this money, basically, stocks either finds a bottom if it's in a bear market, or stocks pump. Crypto tends to do very well during that period as well. They either find a bottom if it's dropping, like it is right now, or they pump when it is in a bull trend. So all very bullish factors. Just one more, if we can squeeze that in, have a quick look at the Solana ecosystem. So Solana has received an absolute belting. Why is that? Because thanks to what the Argentinian president did, which is essentially to rug pull the entire space. And so that's why it's in a lot of trouble right now. And so my Discord was asking me, where do I see the support for Solana was? And I told him it was around 164. So around 164 is around here. Why 164? You can probably see now from this chart. First of all, this blue line, that started at what? In December 23. So it's been over 14 months now. So we've had support, bounce off, support, and then another support here, another test. We should at least get a bounce here. Even if it breaks down, we should at least get some sort of bounce. 205 would be a conservative target, could be an even bigger bounce to 260. A more optimistic target is 265, 263-ish. Conservative target could be like 189, but realistic 206 is possible. 163, 164 is that trend line. But on top of that, see, there's this big range I've drawn in yellow. See this yellow area? So we've had top, bottom, pivot bottoms, and then this range continues to here. So we don't want Solana to get into this range, because once it does, then 122 area, 120s is the support. So for now, we're thinking that it'll bounce off the top edge, wick down, bounce off the top edge of this. See how it's all being wicks down? Doesn't really close inside this area, and it bounces up. So basically this 160, let's call it 163, 164, 165 area, that's kind of the bottom. There's a wick down into here, like 165, 166 again, then it's probably a chance to buy the bounce with a minimum target of 189, but more likely 205, 206 area, and 265 if we're really optimistic. I don't think Solana memes come back for a while, honestly. Like, I do think they will come back. I think the degen traders will never learn, and it'll pump again. But for now, memes probably don't pump again until the end of this bull run. So if the Solana memes pump, fun memes pump again, then we know that's the end of this bull run. In the meantime, so many bullish news, end of QT, start of QE, one by the Fed, one by the Treasury, and there are other news that I'm quite bullish about, but it's too long for one episode. I'll cover in the next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.